you think you can fix somebody. Somebody has to want to fix themselves and work on themselves. It's not your job to fix anybody or show somebody what a great person they could be.
Hey besties, welcome back to another episode of I Missed Me. I am so excited today because with me, I have Kristina Kane. She is the host of Dirty Daytini, and she is the girlfriends guys never knew they needed, and the bestie girls always wish they had. Welcome, Kristina, to I Missed Me. I am so excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling ready to go,
On your podcast, you talk a lot about relationships and breakups and dating stories and everything. And I love that because on I Missed Me, we love to talk about that. I kind of want to get this conversation started by you giving a little background as to why you started talking about that. Is it a certain specific breakup that you had to go through that inspired you to, grow and then start this podcast, or how's your story?
So I started Dirty Daytini because for many years, basically my friends, my family, even strangers would come to me just asking relationship questions and dating advice, whether it be my family or my friends, or I'm at a dinner event and a guy's like, oh, I just met this girl, da 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 da. And I just saw this reoccurring pattern of people being very open and transparent with me when it came to their relationship issues, their dating struggles, their sex life, whatever it be. And so it's definitely long overdue. I should have started this 5 years ago, but I started it because, I was giving these people one-on-one advice and recommendations. And if I'm giving it to this person is going through this, but so is probably someone else in the world.
Yeah.
So it opened up a platform to where everyone can hear my advice and thoughts. And I'm also super transparent and with my best friend. You could be my best friend, and I'm going to give it to you blunt and give you my straight opinion. I'm not going to filter or walk on eggshells for the sake of your feelings.
Right.
And I think that's really important when you're seeking advice, because a lot of times you go to a friend or a family member for advice and they kind of soften the blow and they favor your side of what's going on because they care about you.
Yeah.
But I like to see things kind of from an outside perspective, even if you are my best friend. So, you always know you're getting it real when you're talking to me.
And that's kind of how I am too. And I love that you talk about that, because I feel like honesty is the most important part of a friendship. You don't want a friend that's always supporting you, even when you're in the wrong, because you would never be able to grow.
No, 1,000%.
So I love that you're that type of person. Is it a specific breakup that you had to go through, or how's your experience with breakups?
Throughout the course of my years of dating, it's all kind of been different. I've been in relationships with, narcissistic personalities that really took a toll on my mental health as well. Because, the whole time you're involved in that type of relationship, you're trying to figure out how to get it back to what it was, but that wasn't even that person in the beginning. It was just kind of a facade and a mask they wore. And then I've been in really great relationships where we were together for many years and we had a lot of similar interests and we were really compatible, but we just grew apart. And I think in relationships, you either grow together or you grow apart. And a lot of times people try to hold on to the relationship very tightly because of what it was or what they think it could be. But sometimes you just have to take relationships for face value. And if you grow apart, you grow apart, and there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of been in all types of different relationships.
Mm-hmm. What's the most important lesson that you've learned about yourself after going through these, experiences that people call heartbreak, but I just call it heart shape, because your heart doesn't actually break. You just learn how to see relationships from a different perspective. So
yeah, I love that you call it that.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it. I think some of the biggest things I've learned is that if someone wants to be in your life, they'll be there. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times we hold on too tightly to relationships, and it's not even necessarily because they're the right person. Maybe they once were, maybe they never were, or maybe they're just not anymore. But we hold on so tightly to a relationship, and I think you have to let relationships in life be free flowing. And that goes for romantic relationships, friendships, family. If it's meant to be there, it will be there and it will feel right. And if it's not meant to be there, then just like let it go with open arms and understand that this person was in your life for a season and you learned a lot of valuable lessons and learned more about yourself and whatnot. So I would say throughout the course of my relationships is just to let it be what it is. And when it comes to an end, let it go gracefully. And if it continues on, then great. But don't hold on to anything too tightly for the sake of maybe fear of not finding anybody or, being alone, any of those things.
What's your biggest advice for someone who struggles to jump into that detachment mentality of I have to hold on because I want to feel needed, or I have to hold on because you're giving me validation, and if you don't give me validation, then who's going to give it to me? Like what's your biggest advice when it comes to like that detachment part of?
Right. I think that, so a lot of people, I've had girlfriends in relationships even that were in relationships with people that were very toxic for them. And these boyfriends kind of belittled them and made them feel less than. So then they really felt like, oh, like my own boyfriend almost doesn't even love me and cherish me. How am I going to find somebody else? Or if you're in a healthy relationship, but you just feel like you've outgrown each other and it's time to part ways. I think the most important thing is really just don't live in fear or discouragement of what you could find or you may not find. I think you really have to be okay with being by yourself. And I really stress that before even entering a relationship. Like, really understand yourself, really know what your boundaries are, what your non-negotiables are, what will you tolerate, what won't you tolerate, build your self-worth and your self-respect. So then you attract those relationships that are fulfilling for you, and you don't enter relationships just for the sake of being with someone to have somebody because you're lonely, because you're so good on your own and you've really discovered yourself that then your relationships will be even that much better, because you're not going to enter a relationship with the wrong person for the wrong reasons. You're good with being on your own. You'll go to dinner alone. You'll travel alone. You're really happy and at peace with yourself. So then you do find the people that are really meant for you because you're not settling. So I think before you even enter a relationship, I think you really have to be okay with being on your own. And then when you're in a relationship, if you feel that you've gotten to a point where, the relationship's coming to an end, I don't think you then will fear, well, what if I don't find anybody? What if there's no one out there for me? Because you already are so good on your own and you entered that relationship that you can do it again.
And it's also so much easier to recognize when the relationship is over.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like, when you're not okay with being alone, you kind of in the back of your mind know that the relationship is over, but maybe we can fix it. Maybe one more conversation, or maybe more time, or maybe in the future. But like when you're okay with being by yourself, it's like, no, the relationship is over. I don't want this for me anymore. And like, goodbye.
Totally. Yeah. You can walk away with your head held high and like know, like, okay, this relationship. Yeah, it makes the exit that much graceful, because like if you're okay with being on your own, then you don't have to suffer and be in a relationship that's not serving you just because you don't want to be alone. And if you're really afraid of being alone, then like go buy a dog or something, you know what I mean? But don't lose your mental sanity and have nights where you're staying up crying, you're tossing and turning, you're, going through each other's phones. Like if you're in that type of relationship, like no individual is worth you losing like your mental sanity and peace over.
Yeah. And I love that you like just said that, like get a dog, like as a joke, but I feel like at the end of the day, what we all want is just to feel unconditional loved. And love. Like we all want to feel unconditionally loved and unconditional love. And there are so many things that you can unconditionally love that are not a romantic partner, that you're only going to be able to realize once you let go of that romantic partner, and then understand that you can unconditionally love your friends, unconditionally love a dog, again, your family, your job. So there are a lot of things that you can unconditionally love and that can't unconditionally love you, that is not a romantic narcissistic person,
1,000%.
What are your list of non-negotiables now that we're talking about that?
Okay, well, I mean, someone who's really like, of course, like loyal and trustworthy and compassionate and empathetic, someone who's like very hardworking and driven, because I'm very hardworking and driven myself. So it's very attractive to me when I find someone who doesn't have a lazy mentality. But also, I would say the biggest thing for me is communication.
Yeah.
It's something that is so simple to do, but yet so many people struggle with it. And I do think there's different tiers of communication. I mean, there's communication, just having casual conversation with your friends and family. But then, the communication that arises when you're in a fight or someone did something that hurt your feelings, that's more of like an emotional communication. So I think a lot of people struggle when feelings get involved to communicate effectively. So having communication as a skill set is a big, top of the list for me.
Yeah.
Because so many relationships, and I've been in a relationship where this has happened myself, where maybe the relationship fell apart just because you weren't communicating effectively. I feel like a lot of people try to keep the peace in a relationship. And of course, like, you have to pick and choose your own battles. You can't like go to war over every single thing that bothers you that your partner did. But if you're constantly brushing things underneath the rug, like, oh, it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal, then these things are still like in your subconscious mind and weighing on you. And with a matter of time, you're going to explode. And you're not even going to know what you're exploding over because you've brushed so many matters underneath the rug.
Yeah.
And then, you think your relationship's at stake and maybe this person isn't for you. But really, I think if you just communicate effectively, a lot of issues can be avoided in relationships that arise if people literally just sat down and had an open, honest, transparent conversation. So communication is a big thing for me.
I agree with you. And it's something that I've been talking about a lot, because I agree with the fact that communication is big and key in relationships, but I think that comprehension is even more important than communication.
Yeah.
Because you can try to communicate all you want, but if there's no comprehension, then communication doesn't mean anything.
Totally. It's like talking to a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to, and that's why like a lot of times people talk about like communication styles, because it's like, yes, you have to be able to comprehend what this person's saying, because otherwise, if it's going in one ear and out the other, then what's the point? So yeah, I totally agree with that. That's new for me. I've actually never even thought about that. Like, of course you want to be heard, but some people can hear you but not really understand you.
Mm-hmm. And you're communicating, you're just not being understood, so it doesn't really mean anything. So I agree with the fact that like communication is key, because without communication there's no comprehension, but without comprehension there's no fixing. Yeah. So what is your opinion on modern day dating? Because I feel like I'm going to be single for the rest of my life.
Oh, no. I'm single too, girl. I think there's pros and cons. So quite frankly, I think modern day dating sucks. I would say the pro of it is that it does give you the opportunity to meet people more than just your local city. You can find people on Instagram, you can find people on dating apps, you can find people very globally now. So, there's more of a pool of options with modern day dating. But I would say the cons of modern day dating is because there are so many options, sometimes people are seeing someone or they enter a relationship and you think, well, what if there's someone out there better for me? Like, what if...
No, the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah, the grass is greener on the other side. And so I think with so many options, sometimes people are not fulfilled in what they have in front of them because they think about the what ifs, the grass is greener. So I think that's an issue. I also think that in modern day dating that a lot of people kind of hide behind their phone. Like, I've been in many situations where like, whether it's like, I'm on one dating app, but I go on there when I'm bored and I like heart.
Which one?
Raya. That's the only dating app. My Raya sucks. My friends' dating apps on like their Raya is like on point. Mine is so bad.
Have you found anyone like that you like? What are you doing here? Like top?
Yeah, no. I've like my Raya used to be really good, and I don't know what happened to it because some of my friends' Rayas, like the people they get are like great people. And me, it's like, it's showing me people in like Amsterdam and like New Zealand. And I'm like, that's not going to be. I've literally emailed the company about it. And they were like,
I'm in LA.
Yeah, I'm like, help. But I go on there when I'm bored and I heart and I X. But then if someone like messages me like, hey, honestly, you've already lost my attention. Because it's like, I want someone to come in like, Friday at 8, I'm taking you out. Like, take initiative, be assertive, come through the plan. Because I don't want to do the whole...
Or what are you doing Friday? Or what are your plans?
Yeah. Like, take initiative and execute. Because, like, if a guy comes in and is like, hey, and then you're like, hey, what's up? Not much. It's so much pitter patter back and forth over the phone. And like 98% of the times you never even end up meeting that person.
And you know what too? I love talking about this because there's a lot of like neuroscience that goes behind it. It gives you a fake sense of intimacy.
Really?
So your brain doesn't know the difference between what's actually real and what's not. So when you're texting someone, your brain is processing it as I'm having a real conversation with this person. And that is why we get attached so easily based on like texting 24/7. It's like you don't even know this person, but in your mind you do.
Right.
So
but then sometimes, like, I'm sure you've been in occasions like this where it's like maybe you are texting someone or messaging someone and you really feel like you know this person, and then you meet them in person and they're totally different.
Exactly. Yeah. So I hate texting. I never text. I FaceTime, I call, or I see you in person, but it's like, you're not going to text me what's your favorite color, because that's not, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, that's why modern day dating, I mean, it really sucks. Like, yeah, cool, there's options, but then also I think the con is that there's too many options and people think, what if the grass is greener? And then so many people, like, fear of commitment. What I've kind of realized, especially in Los Angeles, I'm sure you're familiar with everyone having Peter Pan syndrome.
Yeah, I feel like it's like everywhere now.
I think it is too. Yeah. I agree with you. But like when I say fear of commitment, I don't even mean fear of commitment and like being boyfriend and girlfriend. I mean fear of commitment and like even committing to a plan. Like, hey, Friday 8, would you like to go to dinner?
That's the problem. It's just like your fear of commitment translates to everything. Like
everything.
Your job, like just everything.
Yeah, because they want to keep their options open. Because like Friday 8, maybe they want to take you out, but then I don't know if I want to commit to that because what if my boys are doing...
It's always the fucking boys, bro.
What if my boys are doing that? You know what I mean?
Sorry, I'm hanging out with the boys.
Yeah. So I mean fear of commitment, even in as small as like making a plan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I hate the fucking boys. Because girls is like, I love my girls, but I would never cancel a plan that I have with a guy I like to go with my girls. Because they know, and they understand because they know that I'm... But like, guys don't have a problem on canceling to you because they're going out with the boys. And it's like...
No. I think it's also though, but like I'm kind of the same way. Like when I make a plan or when I like make a commitment to someone, like I'm following through. But I think that also has to do with like, you know, really having your identity in place.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, whether it's dating, whether it's newly like started, whether you've been dating this person for 4 years, a lot of people are like, you know, maybe they love to go to girls' night every Friday with the girls and they go have martinis. Well, they enter this relationship, they start seeing someone and they cancel everything because they're hanging out with Jared.
That's another problem too. What's your opinion on that? Like, I always say that the worst mistake that someone can make when entering a relationship is like leave their friends aside.
Yeah.
I don't think your relationship with your friends, if it's a healthy friendship, should ever change when you get into a relationship.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that the friendships you have beforehand, who you are beforehand, and that's why I'm so big on having your own self-identity and, you know, really loving yourself, because whatever activities you like to do, whether it be Pilates every Tuesday or girls' night every Friday, when you enter a relationship, just because you're in a relationship, you still need to hold on to your identity and still do Friday night girls dinner or Tuesday Pilates. Because if you cancel all these things for the sake of appealing to your partner, then that's when the relationship starts to become like somewhat codependent. Right. Because you don't have your own friends anymore. You're always with your partner. Your partner is always with you. And it becomes a very codependent relationship. But then also people in relationships like that, they tend to like argue over really small things.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because you're always with each other. So it's like you don't have a moment to breathe and like be free. So I think it's really, really, really important to like stay true to yourself. Stay true to yourself. And like just because like I like to say like a relationship's not two halves coming together to make a whole. Yeah. It's two wholes coming together to like make like an infinity. Yeah. You know?
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you just talked about codependency because it's a great problem a lot of people have, and one of the main reasons why people don't leave. How do you heal it? Like, how do you work through it?
So I think that a lot of people who have codependency usually come from childhoods that kind of
100%.
encourage it. So like whether you grew up and your parent or parents, one was mentally or physically ill, and you were kind of having to play like, you know, the parent at a very young age, or maybe, you know, one of your parents was an addict. So you really had to step into like a very like maternal or paternal figure at a very young age. And then also sometimes when you're younger, it's like the emotional side as well, not just physical. So like if they're arguing a lot, or maybe your family like, you know, brushes things underneath the rug and doesn't communicate and just pretends everything's okay, then you kind of grow up viewing relationships in that way, and you try to keep the peace. So I see a lot of people kind of lose their voice in a relationship because if there's an issue going on, they don't want to speak on the matter because they just want to keep the peace. So they kind of become like a yes woman or a yes man. And then, you know, a lot of people who are codependent take on, you know, relationships where maybe they feel like they need to like fix the person. But I mean, it goes back to what I was saying previously. Like, you have to, I would say go to therapy and really understand.
Seek help.
Seek help. I went to therapy. I think therapy's great. I wouldn't be speaking on any of this if I probably didn't go to therapy. So it's like, you know, because the therapist can really dissect those things that you didn't think were a big deal in your childhood. You thought were just a normal childhood, and any underlying traumas that you have. And then once you're aware of those, now you can work on those issues. But I think if you're codependent or in a codependent relationship, the best way to not any longer be that is to be on your own. Like, be on your own. If you feel tempted to enter a relationship because, you know, it seems appealing, be on your own even more. Like, just like keep,
that is so true.
Yeah, like just keep being on your own until you really understand the
more you crave it, the more that you have to abstain from it.
I mean, it's like an addict, you know?
It really
like,
is.
You have to first accept that you are codependent and realize that you are. Other people could tell you it, but, you know, you have to admit to it yourself and be like, okay, I have an issue. I'm codependent with my friends, with my family, with my relationships. And then you have to literally stay out of a relationship and really navigate all the things that you need to fix and overcome them. And if you're already in a relationship, you can, of course, like overcome codependency, but then your partner has to be open and receptive to you overcoming that, with you putting your boundaries in place and whatnot. Because a lot of people that are in relationships and one person is codependent and the other person isn't, sometimes that person likes that person being codependent because they get what they want, how they want, when they want, you know, like they know that their partner's gonna, you know, serve them and do these things for them and drop their plans for them. So that's why it's harder sometimes in a relationship, because sometimes in a relationship, like, as toxic as it is, one person kind of like gets off and likes that this person is codependent because it serves them.
Yeah, and that is also like, not everybody is looking to grow, you know? Like, I have so many friends that are in toxic relationships and are not looking to leave anytime soon.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. It's like,
that's their journey.
I think if you're listening to this podcast, I feel like it's a good first step to like want to be better. But there's people that are just not looking to be better.
Yeah, or they're just not ready for it yet.
Yeah. Can you share some funny, embarrassing?
I wish I had. I try to think about like funny, embarrassing.
You really don't?
Yeah, like I honestly like try to think about that, and like first dates,
like dating stories or like embarrassing things men have done, or like jaw-dropping, bare minimum things that you've ever.
I mean, yeah, it's just like, okay, like first dates to me usually aren't bad. I don't really go on them, but
yeah, same. I never go on them, so I wouldn't know.
I don't really go on them unless it's like really worth my time. But like, you know, I'm just in a different place in my life. I don't need a date just to date.
How old are you?
I'm 28.
Okay, you look so much younger.
Oh my God, thank you.
No, yeah, what? So you're looking to date to marry?
Yeah, like the next person I date will probably be someone that's like more, you know, exclusive. And if we're going to date 4 years, I'm now in my 30s. So it's like, I'm not like before, you know, when I was in my 20s, when I was 20, 21, 22, I was a serial first dater. I loved going on first dates. Yeah. Like, you know, whether whether it was a good conversation, whether nothing came of it, whether I made a new friend, cool. But now it's like I would rather spend my time working on things that I'm passionate about rather than going on a first date just for the hell of it.
Right.
So yeah, I'm definitely in a different like dating stage, but I haven't really had any awkward first dates. I don't know, because I'm so talkative and extroverted and outgoing that even if someone's shy, it's a matter of time before they like warm up to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm just
have
like,
to feel comfortable.
Yeah, no, I mean, put two shy people on a first date.
Doesn't work out.
Doesn't work out.
Yeah.
But even if the guy's a little more timid, you know, I'll be very like communicative and ask him questions to where he starts to feel more safe. Yeah, I literally, nothing comes to mind. That's really sad, but I guess I'm just a perfect dater.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of
that's probably a good thing.
I'm trying to think of like a jaw-dropping like moment or anything embarrassing, but like honestly, like nothing has really like struck me. I mean, I will say like when it comes to dating, it's just like this isn't jaw-dropping or embarrassing, but it's hard because like you can meet somebody and feel like, okay, finally, I've kind of met somebody that I feel like could be someone in my life. But then it's like everything's so interchangeable these days and so fast. I mean, you can meet somebody and for 2 weeks you'd be talking and then all of a sudden you don't talk anymore.
Yeah.
So I would say like just like consistency has been really hard to find.
Yeah, and consistency is such an ick.
Yeah.
Like just like men that start pulling away out of nowhere, like ghosting, and that's a big thing now. That's like
I'm laughing because I just had an experience like this.
I hate it.
Like literally, you just said everything.
That's like the one thing that's not happening to me in 2024.
1,000%
I
not.
had enough of it last year.
No, I'll tell you the story. So basically, I met this guy in New York like a month ago, and I already knew it was kind of like, he's a very sweet guy, but I already knew it was kind of a red flag because like upon meeting me, he was like, oh my God, you're such a wife. Like, I'm in love with you. Like, you don't say
that's a red flag too.
1,000%. All of it. Like, I'm so in love with you. Like, you don't even know me. Like, you met me for like a total of 8 hours. So it's like all that I was like already very cautious of. And then we like had conversation here and there because he lives in New York. I live in Los Angeles. And so obviously he was like very love bombing and like whatnot. And I always say as soon as something starts is as fast as it will end. Yeah.
And that's with everything. That's like with social media. Like,
yeah,
you know, when people are just like trending and blow up out of nowhere and then in 2 weeks you don't know anything about them anymore. So
yeah, so it's like I already was like very aware of his behavior because, you know, I was just
were you
like,
liking him too?
I mean, I liked him for
the attention he was giving you.
Not necessarily the attention he was giving me. No, it's really rare for me to find not rare because I can talk off anybody's ear, but like we were having mentally stimulating conversation.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Like actual like
yeah, like, you know, like your mind's turning.
Yeah.
So it's not even like I love myself too much that it's like I don't give a fuck if someone gives me attention or not. You know what I mean? Like, okay. So it's like it was that it's very rare. Like I can talk to a wall, but it's very rare for me to find somebody that mentally can stimulate me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Has like common sense conversations. Yes. We can actually have a conversation.
Yeah, not just like, hey, how you doing? Or you want to drink? You know, like actually thinking,
want to go out and
talking about worldly things that are actually going on. So the mental stimulation I liked, but then like I said, I was already aware of like the love bombing, and I was like, something's off. You know, just be careful with this one because like that's not normal behavior. Yeah. And then I of course live in Los Angeles, and he lives there, so he thought I was in New York because I posted a photo of like a martini at a restaurant in New York because, you know, like Throwback Thursday. I don't know. Yeah. And so he
was it okay? Did you do it to get his attention?
No, I didn't. Okay. I like because like Dirty Daytini, Dirty Martini. You know, I don't know. I'm just like
no.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know. I just like
it would have been me. Like
like it wasn't necessarily like to get his attention, but then he thought I was in New York, and I wasn't. I was in Los Angeles. But moral of the story is he ended like he ghosted me because he assumed I was in New York, and I was like, no, I'm not in New York. And then he's like, wow, I'm so mad. I thought you were in New York. And then like haven't heard from him since, which is fine because like I said already, it was just like it was not anything like to come of it to begin with. I already was aware of his like behaviors, but it's just rare to find somebody that you can have mentally stimulating conversation
for a long
with.
time.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like people will just like ghost you. It's like you're ghosting me because you're mad that you assumed the wrong thing. So I don't know. I just stay in my own lane.
It's hard. I know. When is a time where you've said like enough is enough?
Okay. So how I don't know. I was probably like 22, 23. And I wasn't exclusive boyfriend and girlfriend with this guy, but you know, at that time in my life, I was definitely in a different place mentally. So like I didn't have as much self-love or respect as I do for myself.
Yeah.
I didn't love being alone as much as I do now. So any relationship that I kind of had attention or love from, I entertained, even if it was the wrong person. And so we weren't ever boyfriend and girlfriend, but there was this guy who I met, and he had been sober for like a year and a half. And he did like everything, like hardcore drugs, alcohol, like everything. But he had been sober when I met him. And so I didn't know his like other side. Yeah. And so like we were never, like I said, boyfriend, girlfriend, but we were seeing each other, hanging out, whatnot. And he relapsed. Like, and I think that like, you know, a part of
while talking with you.
Yeah. And like, so like, then it kind of like, I mean, it was a complete like 360 because I knew this person and I had never seen this person. And then when he relapsed, it was this person I didn't even recognize. And I took
and you were already attached to the first one that you met.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And so I took so much initiative upon myself to be like, why did he relapse? How can I help him? Like, but then I also sacrificed a lot of myself for the sake of his mental clarity, because when you're dealing with someone like this, anything can offset them. You know, like you could be on a trip with your girlfriends in Aspen and, you know, they'd be like, you know, like, you know, so it's like, I definitely was not staying true to who I was, and I felt like I was triggering him in a lot of ways and he was triggering me, because then his reasoning for using is X, Y, and Z and it involves me, and like I will never do that again. Okay. I like it for anyone. I don't know how people do it, but for anyone, like, I mean, one thing I learned about addicts is that like even when they're clean and they're not using, they have to be addicted to something else. Hopefully that addiction is healthy. Like maybe it's running a business, going to the gym, making money, but they have that addictive mentality. So if it's not using, they usually are addicted to something else. And so you can become someone else's addiction. And so I kind of was his addiction, and it was a very toxic for him and for me. And I think that, you know, a lot of people, whether someone's an addict or not an addict, they think, especially women, because we have that maternal instinct in us, you know, you think you can fix somebody, but like it is not your job to fix anybody. Somebody has to want to fix themselves and work on themselves. It's not your job to fix anybody or show somebody what a great person they could be. Like that is all of our own job. And so that relationship was definitely like enough is enough. And what I learned from that is I personally, for me, will never date anybody who has an addiction issue. I don't care if you've been sober.
Because you don't have it. You know?
I don't have it. I don't understand it. I can go out, have a glass of wine and be fine and go home. I don't crave more. But also like, it's risky and scary. Like, I don't care if you've been sober 8 years. Like, for me personally, if I'm with you and you've been sober 8 years and we're married and now we have kids, and maybe one sip and I lost you. You're gone. You're a different person. So then it's like I'm having to fight for a relationship with, you know, like it just brings too much mess.
It really does.
Into the relationship. And especially if like I'm thinking about my future, like me, my husband, my kids, you know, like maybe my kids know the sober father they have, but like I said, one sip or one wrong move and they're down a different path, and now your kids don't have a father figure.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I won't enter a relationship with anyone who's an addict or previous addict, but they've recovered. It's just a lot to handle. And I've learned a lot through that relationship. So that was definitely like enough is enough for what I'm tolerating with him, but also what I'm allowing myself to go through.
Right. Is this what I'm think I'm worthy of? Like,
totally.
And it's super important what you're saying. Like, you're not a therapist, you're not a mom, you're not a sister, you're a girlfriend. Like, I don't have to fix your issues, you know? Like, I should accept you as you are. And also, you can't date someone who is sober but has friends who are addicts, you know? And that's what I like kind of realized, because I had a similar experience where I used to talk with this guy that used to smoke a lot of weed, and there's people that allow that and that like that. I personally don't, because I'm an athlete, I have a business, I like traveling, I don't even drink because I don't like it, and there's no problem with drinking, I just don't want that in my life.
Right.
And he would like, I'm gonna quit, but then he would go out with his friends that also did it, and he would do it, you know? So his environment is also super important.
I always say birds of the same feather flock together. So like, like if your friends, you know, are potheads, then it's like you're probably going to be one. If, you know, these people are always drinking all the time, getting, you know, drunk, then it's like you're probably going to fall into that. So it's like your environment is a reflection of who you are.
Yeah. And it's also going to be reflected in who you are. Like, it goes both ways. Just like you are not like you are like you want to have healthy friends around you because you're a healthy person, you know? It happens the same for
now
for them.
Now I am. I've definitely gone through the ringer. But like now I'm to the point in my life where I don't go out really on dates unless I see, you know, potential in someone. I don't really care to go to like the dinners and the events and the lounge. You won't catch me in a club, like, because I'd rather sit home in peace and watch a movie
100%
with myself than be out with company I don't enjoy or are not true to you.
And that are like sucking your social battery.
1,000%. Or just like fake, and they're like, oh my God, how good to see you. And then they talk shit about you behind your back. 100%. It's like,
have you been to those like influencer events here in LA?
Yeah, I go alone.
No, same. But you just meet so many people there that are just like...
Yeah, no, 1,000%. So it's like, I mean, it's so weird to me that like, for such a, like, this should be like the girls' room, the girls, the safe space. And it's like these influencer events, I feel like, you know, I go to and I go alone, sometimes thinking, oh, maybe I'll meet somebody. But then it's like, you won't. You can't. Because it's like, they're so like, it's like Mean Girls, the movie. It's like,
it really is. And you feel like you have to be like happy all the time. And it's like, well, these people are not even having like real conversations. Like I went to this Poly thing. Like, I should probably not say the brand, but
we'll cut that
out. It's okay, whatever. And I went there, and there was this girl that also had a podcast. She had like 50,000 more followers than me, which is like, I really don't give a shit about that. Like, I just want to have cool conversations with cool people, and that's it. And she was like, oh my gosh, you have a podcast? I would love to like podcast swap, whatever. And then I went home like a few days later, I like DM'd her, and she like unfollowed me. Like, she left me on Reddit and unfollowed me. And I was like...
Yeah, that's here.
And she was the nicest one in the room that day. So... And that was in Florida, but...
Oh, it was in Florida?
Yeah, that was in Florida.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. So it's everywhere.
No, but that's everywhere. Like, it's just so superficial.
It's super superficial. It's a shame because you think this whole, like, you know, girl influencer social media space, like, it'd be very empowering and, like, girls stick together and have each other's backs.
There's a lot of, like, subconscious competition going on.
Yeah, it's not like that. It's like there's competition. How can they become better than you? How can they get ahead? And it's like, yeah, like, you go to those events and people are just, like, really... I usually just, like, go... get my stuff, do my content, thank people, and
that's
leave.
Why it's cool to like go to like experience it yourself.
Yeah, because it's like, girls are just like, I feel like they'll like be looking at you and like be talking about you with their friend. It's like, it's not a safe space.
It really is not.
No,
it really isn't. Thank you so much for being here. This has been an amazing conversation, and I want to close it out by asking you a question that I ask everybody that comes on I Missed Me, and that is, what does healing mean to you?
I think healing to me means being okay with your past and truly being okay with everything that has happened to you and that you've had to overcome. And being ready, open, and available to take on anything that comes your way in the future. So I think just make peace with your past and be ready for the future. And in the meantime, stay present.
Yeah. Thank you so much again. This has been such a wonderful conversation. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I love you guys. Don't forget to follow I Missed Me on every single social media. Don't forget to follow me on social media. And don't forget that I have a clothing brand, I Missed Me project, that you can also find everywhere. Don't forget that we're all strangers healing together. I love you guys, and I will see you guys on our next episode. With love, Mafe.